Hey everyone, welcome back. It's long. Today I'm going to be talking about Diablo 4. With the patch that's coming out in probably under 18 hours, Blizzard has said they were going to be including a lot of game balance changes, as well as the new content for Season 1. So let's kind of look into here on what I think they're going to add or fix in this upcoming patch and what they won't touch. So I kind of compiled a list here with the current known issues. Either myself have experienced or kind of just browsing around on the community forums and Reddit. But really what it comes down to is that we're going to see whether these issues all get addressed. So I went ahead and made a kind of a spreadsheet here, kind of going into that basically is a copy of this side, and we're going to just say yes or no whether these things are going to be fixed. So coming through on this, on the loot and itemization portion, it's not interesting. It's too complex to read or understand. An example of this would be like, some of the damage stuff is like damage to close, damage to distance. At a glance, it makes sense. You have a Sorc shooting out ice shards. Totally makes sense. You would say that's damage to distance. You have a barbarian doing a whirlwind attack. Well, it's damage to close. Makes sense, right? If I stand next to a mob and I shoot ice shards, that's probably damage to close, right? Again, makes sense. What happens when you have some abilities like a leap attack on a barbarian or on like a sorcerer's teleport, right? If it moves my character from A to B and then the attack goes off, is that a damage to close or damage to distance, right? I think it's close because it's moving my character from A to B and then the damage comes. But again, I'm not really sure. Are they going to actually fix this or maybe kind of condense some of the damage buckets? I don't think they will. I don't think this is going to get touched for a long, long time if they even do. So I'm going to put this as a no. The item level is the same as character level. So right now what happens is, for example, if I'm level 100 and I get an item, the item is going to be the required level to use the item, not the item power. The level required to use the item is going to be level 100, the same as character level. The issue with that is, if you find a really good item that you want to pass on to an alt, well, guess what? That alt needs to be the same level as your current character that found it in order to use it, right? So what that means is, for example, if the current player is 100, all items found will be required level 100. So that's not very fun because in old games like Diablo 2, the whole point of kind of farming for loot is to find items that are interesting, right? Uniques or rares or whatnot, and that you can pass down to your alts so that it's more fun to just level set alt and blow stuff up with the cool new items. But you can't even do that now because all the items are set to your current player level. However, on top of that, you can't take a super lower level character to, let's say, World Tier 4 and have your friends farm the item for you. So by default, the game already has a floor level, if you will, for certain items that are found in certain specific tiers. I believe in World Tier 4, like I had a character, my friends just ran me through. My character went to World Tier 4 at level 30, but the legendary or the rares I dropped, I couldn't use it. The minimum required level to use was still at 70 because that was the same as World Tier 4, right? Tier 3, I think, was like level 50 or something like that. So they do have a way to gate you on the item. They still put a floor required level, but once your character level exceeds that, they use the character level. So I think Blizzard did say they were going to address this. I don't know how, but my guess is that it's going to be gated to the world tier level 70 or 50 instead of your character level. So I think they will be changed in this upcoming patch. The unique's not interesting. So this one I put down because I didn't find the uniques to be very interesting at all. When I first found my first unique and I looked at it, this affixes were the exact same thing, right? They're the exact same thing as anything you can found on rares and legendaries, right? So it's not very fun because when you find a unique, you're thinking that, hey, this is kind of something that the design team created. It's unique either to the lore of the item or just really cool, something that can maybe be build defining. And it's not. It's just the same as any other affix you can find on a rare or legendary. The second issue with this is that with a rare or legendary, I can re-roll the affix to get something good. So if I got a rare or legendary with 3 out of the 4 affixes that are good, I can actually just re-roll the 4th affix and actually get something that I want and that's better, thus making that item that much better. But when you get a unique where you can't roll off that affix where your class just doesn't use, it makes the unique just dead, right? An example of this is Gore's gloves for the Barbarian Whirlwind. Attack speed does nothing for Whirlwind. I don't know why, but it doesn't work for Whirlwind. So I can't even roll that affix off and get something more desired. So that's really bad. What I do like is that there's a trade-off, right? In that the unique item itself has a very specific unique aspect that you can't get anywhere else. So it's kind of like, if you like this aspect, you must use, it locks it in place for that specific item slot. And I'm fine with that. But the problem right now is that those aspects like either are bugged, like the rupture for Barbs, or they're just not good. They don't scale, and you can't even imprint it with something that you want that fits more of your build with your build. So I think it's a good step in the unique, but you're still better off having a rare or a legendary with a specific imprint, right? So I don't think they're going to make this to be more interesting. So I don't think they're going to touch uniques for a long time. At least the existing uniques. They'll probably continue to add more uniques, which they said they'll do, but I don't think they're going to update the old uniques to be a bit more interesting. Okay, moving to gameplay. So this is all in-game content post 50. Everything before that, before 50, before you finish the story, I kind of covered in the other video. It's pretty straightforward. You can use any skills you want. But post 50, you have kind of these 5 things you could do, right? The 6th thing is something that they've added into the game. It's not clear whether it's post 50. I think this is just turned on as for the the part of the new season. So really it's these 5 items. And if you really look at it, Uber Lilith is only at level 100. So for the majority of players, I'm not even level 100 yet, right? It's going to be these 4 content you can do post level 50. And of these 4, these 3 events are on a timer. And the issue with timed events, while they sound kind of cool from a development perspective, and as a way to kind of balance it out and to not to give players too much too fast, right? In terms of like what gear you can get or resources or whatever. The problem is that I don't want to schedule my life around these events. And that's the end of it, right? To be fair though, they are pretty fast and there's multiple times a day you can do it. So it is kind of okay for what it is. So the real only thing is you have nightmare dungeons. Now, are these nightmare dungeons going to be changed or have new affixes added? My guess is that for this upcoming patch, I think they're going to add new affixes to nightmare dungeons. They also say they might rotate some dungeons to be different nightmare dungeons instead of the current ones you have. I'm hoping there will be. I don't think there's going to be changes to Hell Tides or Legion events or world bosses. And this is a shame for world bosses, just because, you know, when we went through the game, right now we have Ashava, we have the Gree Turtle, and we have the Undead guy, right? We also have Dario and Astaroth. It's like, why can't they be part of the world boss rotation that you can kill? And if anything, at least they have different mechanics, right? I'm hoping they'll maybe add that to the rotation, or those 3 bosses you can kill, just kind of, you know, as part of Nightmare Dungeon or as another capstone dungeon or something, or hell, maybe make it so that you can farm it, right? Kind of like D2 Mephisto or D2 Baal, right? But for now, I don't think they're going to touch world bosses. Uber Lilith, they'll probably, if they do anything to Uber Lilith, it will probably be maybe taking away the one-shot mechanics. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with this. I don't think they're going to change or balance anything with this. So I'm going to put a no in terms of predicting whether they're going to do anything. We already know Malignant Jewels and Tunnels are going to be in the game, so this is going to be added. I'm just going to delete it out of here. Okay, coming down to class balances and bug fixes. Sorc, I've only played the Sorc and the Barb. I haven't played the other 3 classes, so I can't talk about the other 3. Sorcs. Aspects having positive and negative. Really, I would say at the bare minimum, if they are too lazy, don't have time, whatever the excuse is, to balance the Sorc, all they literally have to do is take away all the negative affixes. What I mean by that is there's an affix in the game for ice shards. Ice shards pierce more, but they also do less damage. That's fine. Okay, it's still a net positive, but why is this last bit in here? Why can't it just be ice shards pierce more, right? Hydra. You can only cast 1 Hydra in the game at the base power, or at the base power, with the exception of the enchantment, but I'm not counting that here. But base, you can only cast 1 Hydra for 10 seconds. Well, if you put an aspect on, you can cast a second Hydra, but the duration for both Hydras is now reduced by 33%, 1/3. So instead of a 10-second Hydra and having 2 of them, you now have 2 Hydras at 6.5 seconds each. Now, if you were to count that as a net positive, you're still netting positive, right? You're still having a Hydra for 3 more seconds by using the aspect. But why is that the case, right? So I'm wondering if at some point early on in the design, they decided to kind of go with this philosophy, right? When you do aspects, you have a positive, but you have a negative associated with the skill, and then but even then it's still a net positive to the skill. And then I guess somewhere along the way, the other classes were built, and they were like, yeah, screw that, we're not going to add any negative aspects to that aspect. And the Sorc just never got that change, or they missed the memo. I don't know. But I suspect this will get changed as part of the balance patch tomorrow, as well as having the other skills. So the other skills, Frozen Orb, Meteor, all the Conjuration stuff, maybe with the exception of Hydra, and Firewall, just needs to be better. My guess is that they're probably going to bump up the damage for these things again, like they did with the previous patch. But I don't think I don't know if it's going to be better. It's going to depend on how high that number is. So really the question is, will they change these other skills? Will they touch them just the numbers wise? I think they will. I think they have to. If what they're saying is they want to make this to be a huge balance change, a huge balance patch, as well as the new content for season 1. So for Barb, the whirlwind snapshotting and the whirlwind backstabber stuff is quite interesting. So the whirlwind snapshot, what that means is at the point of where you start the whirlwind, all the buffs, debuffs, what have you, are snapshotted in place, right? And then you move your character around until that whirlwind ends, because it's a channeled ability. So what's interesting about this is that when you're fighting suppressors, right? The suppressor mobs, they create that dome. If you start the suppressor dome, what happens is it prevents all damage outside the dome. So if you shoot from, you have a range class, you shoot from the range to outside to in, the suppressor blocks that damage, they take no damage. Well, with Whirlwind, what it does is, because you started the Whirlwind and it snaps, you started outside the suppressor field and you move your character in, it still calculates it as if you were outside of the suppressor, even though your character, you're very much on the character or on the mob with the suppressor. Now imagine the same mob where the mob could leap, teleport around. You now have to stop the whirlwind, go chase after the mob, get in his face, start the whirlwind again. The mob moves around or teleports. Well, you can't just whirlwind over there. You have to stop the whirlwind, move over to where he is again, inside the field, and then start it again, right? This also reminds me of one where leap behaves the same way. If you leap from outside suppressor onto a mob, it snapshots the damage to be outside. The mob does not take the damage on the leap, which kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier about, is leap a damage to close or damage to distance? Because if this was a damage to close, my leap should have done damage after I'm inside of the mob suppressor field, right? Whirlwind Backstabber is a fun one. I'm going to add a video to this, but essentially what happens is when you whirlwind, when you're looking at your character model, your character is spinning, right? And you're moving around. But on the map, if you look at the mini map, your character never actually changes the arrow facing. And so as a result of that, if the mob moves up behind you, it's going to use kind of that arrow that's represented of your character, and it's going to do massive damage to you. So I don't know what the fix for this is yet, because technically if you're whirlwinding, you don't have a back, so to speak. But I think from a balance perspective, just allowing a Barb to ignore the ethics also is not a good idea. So I don't know what they can do to it. And I'll add a video to that, which kind of reminds me too, if they're going to touch this, poison. Poison puddles or any other poison. Right now, poison resistance doesn't work. And if we have resistances, you know, you wouldn't instantly get one tapped by the puddles. Will they change this or do something to the poison prior to season 2 where they said they're going to change resistances? My guess is no, they're not going to do anything with the poison puddles in this time around. Coming back here, I think they will fix the whirlwind snapshotting. I don't think they're going to fix the backstabber bug. But I don't think they're going to touch anything on poison puddles or any other poison. But what's kind of hilarious to me with poison in general is that when the players are given the players can create the poison puddles on evade, the poison does like no damage, except that when mobs drop it, that poison scales to some crazy number, right? And it just like if you're standing in the puddle, you're dead in like 3 seconds. So that's what I think. I think they're going to fix some of these things, and majority of these things are not going to get touched. There's probably a slew of other stuff for the other classes too, like the Druid, the Necro, and the Rogue. But again, I didn't play those classes, so I can't really speak about what bugs that they have other than what people say on the forums. So final thoughts, and kind of looking at this list of current known issues, I think there's 2 things that must happen for the season to be good. The first thing is going to be, how good are these malignant jewels going to be? Will it be enough to change or customize your class to the point where it makes the leveling process enjoyable again when you're leveling? Because you are having to recreate that new character and having to play content, you know, from level 1 all the way to 50 or 70 or whatever again. The second thing is the balance changes here for each of the classes. Whatever they do here, will that be enough to again give you a different experience playing the class, right? If they, for example, change and buff all the conjuration stuff and the meteor and frozen orb, and I want to play a Sorc on the new season, will those changes be enough to make the Sorc a different experience in conjunction with the malignant jewels? And that's kind of what I'm sure you are also looking forward to seeing. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I look forward to your comments. Let me know down there if you guys agree or disagree, if we've hit some of these predictions or not. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.